Imagine being so outraged by a decision that you throw someone out of a window on purpose. This may sound like something out of a movie, but it's exactly what happened in 1618 in the heart of Europe. Welcome to the Defenestration of Prague, a bold historical act. In this video, we'll dive into this audacious event that not only shocked the world, but also set the stage for one of the most destructive conflicts in European history. Stay tuned to find out how a moment of defiance triggered the 30 Years' War, a war that devastated Europe and altered its trajectory forever. Before we start, if you're passionate about historical tales like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated on the past's most intriguing stories. And if you haven't seen it yet, check out my video on the epic naval battle of Actium, September 2nd, 31 BC. Trust me, it's one you won't want to miss. To understand the Defenestration of Prague, we first need to explore the turbulent landscape of Europe in the early 17th century. Europe was a continent on the brink of upheaval, where the aftermath of the Protestant Reformation had created deep-seated animosities and rivalries. The two dominant forces, Catholics and Protestants, were locked in a fierce struggle not only for religious supremacy, but also for political control. These divisions manifested in conflicts that spanned decades, with wars erupting from France to the German principalities. In the context of the Holy Roman Empire, a vast and loosely connected conglomerate of territories and kingdoms, the situation was particularly volatile. The empire was a tapestry of diverse religious beliefs, languages, and cultures, which created a complex political landscape. Bohemia, part of this empire, was especially notable for its mix of Protestant and Catholic populations. The Protestant nobility had gained considerable power and influence, challenging the traditional Catholic authority represented by the Habsburg monarchy. At the heart of the conflict was a pivotal document known as the Letter of Majesty, issued in 1609 by the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II. This letter was intended to maintain peace by granting significant religious freedoms to Protestants in Bohemia, allowing them to worship freely and build their own churches. It was a delicate compromise aimed at balancing the interests of the various factions within the empire. However, as time went on, the fragile peace established by the Letter of Majesty began to unravel. By the time Ferdinand II was crowned King of Bohemia in 1617, tensions were at an all-time high. Ferdinand was a staunch Catholic and an ardent supporter of the Counter-Reformation, which sought to reassert Catholic dominance across Europe. His rise to power sent shockwaves through the Protestant community in Bohemia. The fear among Protestant nobles was palpable, as they anticipated that Ferdinand would not only disregard the rights granted by the Letter of Majesty, but would actively work to suppress Protestantism. The situation escalated dramatically when Ferdinand's administration ordered the closure of two Protestant chapels in 1617. This act was seen not just as a violation of the religious freedoms guaranteed to the Protestants, but as a direct affront to their rights and dignity. The Protestant nobility felt increasingly marginalized and threatened, believing that their voices were being silenced in a political environment that was increasingly hostile to their beliefs. As the Protestant nobles organized their response, they became more united in their opposition to the Habsburgs. They formed alliances and began to openly challenge Ferdinand's authority. This moment marked a critical juncture in Bohemia's history, as the Protestant nobles began to take collective action against what they perceived as the encroachment of Catholic power. The culmination of this growing frustration and anger came on May 23, 1618. A group of Protestant nobles, led by Count Jindřich Matyáš Thurn, decided to take a bold step. They marched to Prague Castle with the intention of confronting the Catholic officials whom they held responsible for the oppression of their rights. The atmosphere was charged, with emotions running high and the stakes seemingly at an all-time peak. As the Protestant nobles stormed the royal chambers, they encountered Jaroslav Martinic and William Slavata, two Catholic officials who were seen as the main architects of the oppressive policies against the Protestants. Accompanying them was their secretary, Fabricius. The confrontational meeting quickly escalated. Fueled by anger and a sense of righteousness, the Protestant nobles decided to take drastic action. In an act that would go down in history, they seized Martinic, Slavata, and Fabricius and threw them out of a window of Prague Castle, which was a staggering 70 feet above the ground. This audacious act became known as the Defenestration of Prague. It was an impulsive response to a long-simmering conflict, a dramatic culmination of years of tension and frustration. Remarkably, all three men survived the fall. The Catholics claimed divine intervention saved them, while Protestants believed it was merely luck. Regardless of how they survived, the act itself was a direct challenge to the authority of Ferdinand II and a bold assertion of Protestant rights. It sent shockwaves throughout Europe, serving as both a rallying cry for the Protestant cause and a chilling warning to Catholic leaders. The Defenestration of Prague was not merely an isolated incident, it was a turning point that ignited the Bohemian Revolt. In the wake of this event, Protestant nobles rallied their supporters and prepared for a broader rebellion against the Habsburg monarchy. The act was emblematic of the larger struggle for religious and political freedom, and it inspired similar movements across Europe. As the Bohemian Revolt unfolded, it quickly attracted the attention of other Protestant states and factions within the Holy Roman Empire. The situation escalated into a full-blown conflict, and within months, the 30 Years' War had begun, a devastating conflict that would engulf much of Europe and reshape its political landscape. The war's initial phases were characterized by a struggle for control over Bohemia and the surrounding regions. The Protestant nobles organized their forces, and the rebellion gained momentum. However, the Habsburgs were not going to cede power easily. Ferdinand II mobilized his forces to crush the rebellion, employing tactics that would later become infamous for their brutality. The Battle of White Mountain, fought on November 8, 1620, was a critical turning point in the conflict. Catholic forces decisively defeated the Protestant army, marking the beginning of a prolonged period of Catholic retribution against the Protestant nobility. This battle was not only significant militarily but also symbolically, as it represented the decline of Protestant power in Bohemia. The 30 Years' War was one of the deadliest conflicts in European history, with devastating consequences for both soldiers and civilians. The war resulted in the deaths of an estimated 8 million people, a staggering number that reflects the brutal realities of 17th-century warfare. Disease, famine, and violence plagued the regions affected by the conflict. Whole communities were annihilated and cities lay in ruins as armies swept through the countryside, pillaging and burning as they went. The social and economic fabric of Europe was irreparably altered. The war left many areas of Germany depopulated, and the agricultural system collapsed, leading to widespread famine. The devastation caused by the conflict fostered deep-seated animosities and set the stage for future tensions within Europe. As the war dragged on, it became increasingly apparent that it was no longer solely about religion. Political power struggles among the great European powers, particularly Spain, France, Sweden, and the Holy Roman Empire, transformed the conflict into a struggle for dominance. The Catholic Habsburgs sought to maintain their influence, while Protestant states aimed to secure their rights and freedoms. The war did not come to an end until 1648, with the signing of the Treaty of Westphalia. This series of treaties is often cited as a landmark moment in the establishment of the modern international system. The treaty not only ended the 30 Years' War, but also laid the groundwork for principles of state sovereignty and non-interference in the affairs of other states. The treaty recognized the rights of various religious groups, allowing for a more pluralistic society. The consequences of the treaty were far-reaching, resulting in a significant shift in the balance of power in Europe. The Habsburgs were forced to recognize the independence of the Dutch Republic, while France emerged as a dominant power in Europe. The war and its aftermath marked the decline of the Habsburg influence, leading to the eventual fragmentation of the Holy Roman Empire. For Bohemia, the consequences of the Defenestration of Prague and the ensuing conflict were catastrophic. The Protestant rebellion was crushed, and the Habsburgs imposed a brutal regime that sought to eradicate Protestantism from the region. Many of the Protestant nobility were executed, their lands confiscated, and their titles stripped. The once thriving Protestant community in Bohemia was decimated, and the region was forcibly re-Catholicized. The Defenestration of Prague remains a poignant symbol of resistance against oppression. It is a powerful reminder of the lengths to which people will go to defend their rights and beliefs, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The act of throwing the officials out of the window became a legendary moment in history, a rallying cry for those who seek to challenge authority and demand justice. The legacy of the Defenestration of Prague is multifaceted. It serves not only as a historical event, but also as a cultural touchstone that has inspired countless references in literature, art, and popular culture. The act has been immortalized in various works, symbolizing the struggle against tyranny and the fight for personal freedoms. In contemporary discussions, the Defenestration of Prague resonates as a metaphor for civil disobedience and the importance of standing up against injustice. It encourages us to reflect on the consequences of our actions and the impact that a single bold act can have on the course of history. The themes of resistance, power, and sacrifice continue to be relevant, echoing through time as we navigate our own challenges in the pursuit of justice and freedom. And there you have it, the Defenestration of Prague, a bold historical act that forever altered Europe. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And while you're here, make sure to check out the video on the epic naval battle of Actium, September 2nd, 31 BC, by clicking the I card in the corner, another epic tale that changed the course of history.